Shalom Aleichem everyone and a good Chodesh. We are entering Baruch Hashem. We entered the special Chodesh of Chodesh Adar. Mishenechnes Adar Ma'abim B'simcha. So we all know that this Chodesh is a special happy Chodesh which requires each and every one, to enhance and to be Ma'abim B'simcha more and more. Simcha today in our generation, although we all have all the technologies, we have all the social media for those who use it, people get many likes and whatever they get, it's still and remains a big challenge for so many people. So many people are turning to help. So many people go around, they are depressed, unhappy. Although we could say it's a bliss of a generation, you have everything so easily accessible. You can have so many things, whatever you dream, you can get whatever research you want. Everything is at the click of a button. So people should have been very happy. You have everything. What exactly is missing? Forget about, in today's time now you have all these, the stimulus packages coming, But although there is all the shefa at one hand, you have so many, Baruch Hashem, Klal Yisrael is in a situation where there's a lot of money on the street and a lot of help available, a lot of financial help, but it still remains a challenge. Simcha is still something that so many people are really looking for it and searching for it. So, really, the question before we start with Simcha is, let's try to translate the word Simcha. What is really Simcha? Is Simcha translated right in English? We call Simcha happiness. So is Simcha and happiness the same thing, or Simcha something far beyond, much more? Now, even more of that, is Simcha just the natural being of a person? Is a person naturally should be besimcha, or he needs to do something to be besimcha? Shlomo Melech says, Elokim asa za'adam yosher. Hashem created a person, Yosher, he's straightforward, he has everything. Vehemu bikshu cheshbonis rabim. People started, they get twisted into all their problems. So, as we learn it plain, Pashat Pshat, we can understand that Shlomo Melech is saying that every person, just being the way you are, you should be happy. It's just all the twisted thoughts of the people, all circumstances, whatever it's happening, that's what's causing all the great distress that so many people are in. And some might even argue and say, let's look at a baby. We want to start research. Let's look at a baby. A baby is born. As long as the baby is fed, healthy, and not tired, the baby will be happy. Won't be upset, If you see the baby starts crying, you right away know before the baby gets spoiled. Because once the baby is spoiled, it's a different problem. That's part of the cheshbonis rabim. But if you are beforehand, the baby is not spoiled yet, and he gets whatever he needs, he's fed right, slept, whatever, everything is okay. If you see the baby's crying, you right away know you have to check for something. Either the baby's hungry, or the baby's tired, or maybe some, ear infection or something like this. We don't know.
Dirty.
Yes. So therefore, we can conclude that if a person will be healthy and nothing would be missing, then he should be really happy because he has everything he needs. But is it really so? I think it's too early to jump to conclusions. Let's see if we had, before our times, we had someone who did some research on this topic. So we start off with Shlomo Melech. He's the Chacham Mikol Adam. He's, and he writes in Kehelis. So you write off Shlomo Melech. He's Hevel Avalim Omer Kehelis. Right away in the beginning, Divrei Kehelis Ben Duvet Melech B'Shalayim. Hevel Avalim Omer Kehelis. Hevel Avalim Hakol Hovel. He right away dismisses everything. Says everything around is hovel. What's the right translation for hovel? Vanity. So,
or vain.
Vain. So he says everything is hovel right away. He starts dismissing everything. You know, Shlomo Melech is a great researcher. He doesn't, he's not just how you call it. Sometimes you have these people who are, they're looking at everything like black. Yes. So Shlomo Melech starts Perek Beis, Shlomo Melech, chapter 2. He starts right away, Pasuk Aleph. He starts a research. Let's see. Amartani Belivi. Let's try simcha. And let's even start enjoying Er'ai B'toiv. So the way the Sapani explains, the Shlomo Melech says, you know what? Let's try and start to enjoy life. Let's give it a try. Let's see what life has. Just the natural physical life, what it has. And it right away says, Vinegami Hovel. It's also Hovel, nothing. L'schoi kamati mohoilo. He says just laughter is nothing. It's hollowness. Simcha mazioise. Why? Just being happy. Why? Then he continues. He starts elaborating. Pasuk Gimel. I start trying to use wine, and I'm smart. And then all of a sudden, he started realizing, he's the Melech, so he has all the abilities. So Yigdalti Ma'asa. He continues Pasuk Dalet. I built myself many houses, palaces, kromim. I got all these beautiful botanical gardens, ganas, padaisim, fruits, vegetables. I had these beautiful waterfalls, he says in Pasuk Vav. I get whatever, and even I got slaves, avodim, shvachis, and I have, shepherds, whatever I need I have. Much more than all this, how you call it, before him. And then he started even, Kanastaligam, Kesev, Azov, even gold and silver, in all kind of joy that the Malachim, the kings have. And he says, I went way far beyond anyone before me. And even my wisdom was part of it. And then he says the Pasuk Git, whatever I thought about, I didn't restrain myself from it. From all simcha, because my heart is happy, whatever I do. And all of a sudden, he concludes in Pasuk Yud Aleph 11, If anisiani b'chol ma'asai, I turn around, I look whatever I do, and everything is worthless.
Gornish.
He says everything is garnish. So he says, so some would say maybe Shlomo Melech had unrealistic expectations. When you have unrealistic expectations, you're not happy. But since he was the king, not only this, we know that Shlomo Melech was the Melech on the whole world, even on the Shadim. So he had everything he thought about. Whatever could bring happiness, he tried out. And, from the physical world, but it doesn't bring him any happiness. So he's not yet happy. And some might say, you know what? Maybe you should really look for a psychiatrist, Maybe he's in a clinical depression. Whatever he has doesn't make him happy, so let's look for help. So Shlomo Melech continues and starts elaborating, explaining all his wisdom, where he continues, he goes pasuk by pasuk, and in the middle, all of a sudden, he says in Kapitel Gimel Perek Chav Beis, all of a sudden he says, a person should be happy with whatever he has. That's one of the wisdoms that he starts telling us. He's among all the wisdom that Kehelis, the Gemara, many places, the Gemara darshans and explains whatever Shlomo Melech says over here in Kehelis. And then he concludes Kehelis and he finishes off, Soiv davar hakoil nishma es elakim yorev et psoisav shemoy kazeh kol adam. So at the end of everything, elakim yorev et psoisav shemoy. If you want to know what is not a have or the opposite, you conclude a book, you conclude with the assumption, with the total. So to conclude everything, what you have to do is elakim yorev et psoisav shemoy. So you should listen, fear Hashem, and do his mitzvahs. So we know that simcha is something beyond just typical happiness. Because Shlomo Melech said, I tried all of these, and it's nothing. It didn't make him happy. So, what is simcha?
But he said he should be happy what you have.
What you have, right.
Why wasn't that? And he have.
So he finishes.
Why was So why he's not happy? He's
Right.
listening to his own Musar.
Good, very good. Good question. But so that's why he finishes off that you need also the mitzvahs and the kimyara. That means, yes, you have to be happy whatever you have, but you still need more than that. So we'll bring it up during our shir over here. So we, there's a classical sefer of Sidurei Shel Shabbos. It's from the Be'er Ma'im Chaim. He was the Reb Chaim of Chernovitz. He's a Talmud of Remechel Zlocheve. And he's actually buried, he was in Chernovitz, but then he went up to Eretz Yisrael and he's buried in Tzfas. One of the caves over there is from the Be'er Ma'im Chaim. So he writes, when you look in Shoirish Hey, Anaf Beis, Alazain. He writes like this. Simcha, it's a very interesting point what he brings up. He says like this. Simcha is only in Kedusha. Only in Kedusha you'll find Simcha. That's what he says. And he continues and elaborates. Simcha tzadikim b'Hashem, simchi b'Hashem. And it brings psukim where you see that Simcha is something that you find by Hashem. And he says whenever Simcha that without Hashem, that's not called Simcha in Chazal, it's only called Hoylulus. That's what he says. That's not Simcha if it's not involved Hashem.
So how do you define Simcha?
So how do you find Simcha?
How do you define Simcha and Hoylulus?
Okay, so
they seem to be emotionally the same.
Right. And he continues, and he brings a very interesting Kedushas Levi. He says, Shamati. I heard from the Kedushas Levi, Rabbi Yisroel Badichev, that he asked the question, Vayetzi Haman Samayach V'toiv life. Haman went out of the Suda of what Esther called him, so Samayach V'toiv life. So the way he heard it, that the Kedushas Levi asked, Rabbi Yitzchak asked, why was he Samayach? How come he was Sameach? Sameach is a Jewish thing, there has to be something with mitzvah involved. With Kedusha, there's no Kedusha over here. So what's the question? Let's first understand, what's the question? What do you mean? Here you have a person who is the Sheni Lamelech, and he was invited to a special meal where only he, the king and the queen are there, no one else. He came to the peak that a human being could come, especially with Medina's Achashverosh. Achashverosh is the king. He's the king of 120 all the countries, all the whole world, and then he's the second in command.
It said later, Kirak Oti.
Right, that's what he said.
This is why he's happy.
So he should be happy big time,
But what do you use the word Sameach?
Right.
His definition of Sameach is only
right. But even then,
but Esther was there. She's
very good. So even then he asked, why was he Sameach? Why was he Sameach? Why was he happy? So he answers, it's a Kabbalistic answer, it's a Chassidish, that Esther, she wanted to be able to knock down the klippah, so she gave him to eat food that had of the Netzoitzes of Kedusha, and the Netzoitzes of Kedusha, that's what he ate, ripped him away from the klippah, so she had some power on him, but it didn't bring him yet to Kedusha. So he was Sameach. So she was able at the next Suda actually to turn him down, to win him. But so that's why he was Sameach. So he finishes with the same point. So you see that Sameach is only something which is in Kedusha. And he finishes off Simchas Halev. Because the only Simchas Halev you find is only when it's with Kedusha involved. When you look in the Kedushas Levi itself, it's something, he writes that he heard. So they were basically in the same time. Maybe it was a little later, but it was basically in the same time. So when you look at Kedushas Levi itself, he questions not on the word Sameach, on the word Toiv Leiv. And he says, the Toiv Leiv is something that's only in Kedusha. You see, by the Gemara says, by Boaz Vayetev Liboy, he was out of the field, Vayetev Liboy, and he went to sleep. The story with Ruth. So over there, he says, Vayetev Liboy, the Gemara, the Medrash says, he was learning. So you see, the Vayetev Liboy is something that's Ruchnius. And the Kedushas Levi keeps on whatever he talks, a little different the point. So he's asking on the word Vayetev Liboy, not on the word Sameach. But still, the Be'er Ma'im Chaim in Kedusha, he says Sameach is something in Kedusha. So we have to, obviously, the right answer would be like this.
No, but
yes.
But you can say that if you're learning Torah at Tov Lev, is a sameach. Whoever learning Torah is a besimcha.
Right, but the question that simcha could be called, when you look at the shleiv itself, simcha could be simcha. So and toiv leiv is something when you have Torah. So the answer of this should be that there's simcha and there is simcha. There's two types of simcha. Shlomo Melech calls also everything simcha beforehand. He says he tried it. So there is simcha that passes. That's not an everlasting. It's not a deep simcha. We could call it. Let's call it. There's happiness, and then there's true happiness. So there's something. So the real translation for simcha would be true happiness. Happiness itself.
Smachos includes mourning. Evil.
Which?
Smachos.
Right. Okay, that's something else. Yes. Okay, that's
It's the same.
Right. Okay, that's not. Yeah, it's a good question, but simcha itself would be just there will be joy, which is permanent at this point. You're happy, but there's true happiness, which this is simchas halev. That's when a person comes to a deeper simcha, and that point, that's only when you find. It's only when it's with ruchnius involved. It's only when it has the connection with Torah. It's only that's kedusha. Now, we know in the opposite hand. Let's go when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, but the Yom Nerom, the Matafraim brings from the Poskim that whenever you need about tefillah, get someone who is 28 years old. From 28 years and old and up. Why? Because at that point is liboy nishbar. He has a broken heart. Till the 28,
It's been Merutzel Cow.
Yeah, he has more conditions. But you need a leiv nishbar. Leiv nishbar v'nitka lekim lesivze. A person needs to be a leiv nishbar. And till the 28, the person still, the youngsters, they still think that they own the world and everything goes their way.
They know everything.
When it comes to the 28, you already experienced, you had enough of life experience, and then you get a little, a leiv nishbar at that point. And so leiv nishbar is also not a stira with simcha. You can have a leiv nishbar. It means, you have a broken heart at one hand, but on the other hand, you can be besimcha. Especially, we all know the famous quote on Chassidim. Chassidim is evloi beliboy. Chassid is evloi beliboy. His avelis, his mourning, is in his heart. And simcha, tzalosei befanov. He has a smile on his face. And it's not that he's faking. It's not a political smile. It's a true smile, because it's not a stira. You can have a leiv nishbar at one hand, but you don't concentrate on that. When it comes to davening, yes. Then that's the time where your live nishbar emerges. When it comes to gaiva or whatever, that's where your live nishbar emerges. But at the regular points, yes, you have it tzalosei befanov. So it's not a stira.
So how do you translate Lev Nishba? He's depressed?
Not depressed. Broken heart. That's the difference. Broken heart is not a depression.
A guy who has humility also.
Is also, right. It's also part of it, yes. So a broken heart is not called someone who's depressed. You can have a broken heart.
So what type of emotion is that?
A broken heart is someone who, it's hard to describe. It's a combination, let's call it. It's a combination of someone who has a chnoah, humility, and he had certain challenges in life. He knows that life is not so glossy. The physical life is not so glossy that you think it is. But on the other hand, he's still happy, and he's very happy.
There should be a shtickle Bal Yisurim then.
Not a Bal Yisurim, Bal Nisoyim, yes.
A little bit
A mix, someone who experienced already life. We don't need big Yisurim in life. As long you experience life, there's something is, Now, so as you mentioned, there's depression. So when we talk about being besimcha, so now let's start concentrating. What are the obstacles which are on the way to achieve simcha? Because in life experience, people bump into bumps, into obstacles, and some of them get stuck. So let's try to, in a practical way, let's go over it. So Shlomo HaMelech says in Mishle, Yud Beis, Pasuk of Aleph, Dage belev ish yashichenu.
Yesichena.
Yeah, but the when you look at the Yashchenu, that's what the Nekuda say. Yashchenu, So you're right. The Gemara says it. If a dover toiv yesamchenu.
Translate.
So let's translate. So if someone has a worry in the heart of a person, yashchenu. So we'll see what the Gemara.
Shchena means.
Okay, so let's see. And a dover toiv, a good thing, will make him happy. So actually, what is dage? Worry. If someone worries, just Tzvi Freeman in the book Bringing Heaven Down to Earth, it brings a quote from the Rebbe that dage, worry, is against everything we believe in. Because if a person believes, why do you worry? So what is the word of dage itself? Dage, Rashi Yuma says, dage is pachat, it's fear, and it's worry. It's a combination of both. Sometimes someone is afraid about something that's coming. Some people worry. They don't know what's going to be happening. So it's a part of pachet, but whatever. So the Gemara. So there's a Gemara. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin Daf Kuf, and the same Gemara is brought down in Yuma, Ayin Hai, another place. So there's a machlok in the Gemara, Reb Amma and Rav Ase. Someone says Yasicheno Medata. Yasicheno Medata means just, how you call it?
Don't think about it.
Don't think about it, but has a word.
Oh, Mesiach Das.
Mesiach Das, yes, just Yasicheno. Yasicheno Medata. In V'chadomer, someone said Yasicheno, talk it out. La chayrim. You have a problem, siach, talk to someone else. So the interesting point is, Rashi explains like this. Rashi says, Yasechenu medatoi, on Yashcheno, on the word Yashcheno, Rashi says, Yasechenu medatoi. Take your mind off it. Don't think about it.
Forget about it.
The Dover Toiv means Yasig b'Torah, should learn Torah, and V'hi tesameach es hadage. This will enlight, make you happy, that the worry that you have in your heart. Not only this, v'tatzileno mimeno, and it will save you. You learn Torah, it will save you from your worries, from your fears. And then Rashi continues. The other day in the Gemara it says, you should talk to someone else. So the end of the pasuk is he touches a little different. The davar toiv, the good thing that your friend will advise you or whatever will ease your pain with. This is sameach esadage. This will enlighten your worry. So basically, So Rashi is saying like this: if you go with the first mandomer, yasachenu midatoi, which you don't think about it. So don't think about it. Engross in learning, and the learning will automatically help you with all the worries. And then the other mandomer says yasachenu lacheirim. So he says, what should he do? The soif of the the words that the other person will tell you to help you, to enlighten you, to ease your pain. This will yesamchena davar toiv, the good words you will hear from your friend, yesamchena, will ease your pain. So the Pele Yoetz, the Blazer from Papa, the Pele Yoetz, famous Musa Sefer, Mekubal, says it's not a machlokes. It's not a machlokes. Try the first advice. Number one is try to.
It doesn't work.
If it doesn't work, yesachenu medata, then go talk to someone else.
Smart.
And the words of the Pele Yoetz is something that we can say in Rashi. Basically, Rashi brings down both Purushim and the Pasuk and says it's not a stira. You can have two Purushim on one word. Dover Tov is samchenu. You can say Dover Tov learn Torah. Dover Tov means the Dover Tov from the other friend, from the other one who would tell you.
The Aga is the opposite of bitachon.
Right. Ashir b'fachet. So over here, you look at the Pele Yoetz. So the Pele Yoetz starts elaborating. So he says like this. First of all, a person should try to, be masir das from it, start thinking pure machshavas, and even try to give some good excuses why you could push off the worry. And if you can't, then talk to someone else. Tamid chachamim va'anshe mada. Anshe mada means obviously some smart people who are intelligent people. That they should give him good advice, and they should talk to him words that would ease and be mevatel the dage, and it will ease you. Because, and it brings the Mamar HaChochem. Ha'ovar ayin. Whatever was is ayin. It's not enough that you suffered. You want to continue ruminating on it and continue suffering on it. It's past already. Whatever happened, happened. The ha'osid, whatever is going to be, adayin.
What's a dying?
It's not yet.
Not yet.
So dagim and why do you worry? Have bitochen and Hashem, and this is a big cloud to wear off all the daigis. So let's try to a little bit. Since worry is one of the major, let's call it major obstacle that people in some points of life will ever encounter it, and they really worry about it. So let's try to understand it a little. What's the idea of yasecheno medate? It's like someone says, ignorance is a bliss. If you don't look, it doesn't exist. What do you mean yasecheno medate? What kind of advice is this? I used to call it the Basayana mode. There's a Basayana ostrich, yes, ostrich. The ostrich, they say that it has a nature, it tucks the head in the sand, and nothing exists. It's like he says that nothing exists. So what are you going to do? You're putting your head you're closing your eyes, and now nothing exists. If you are worrying, obviously there's a problem here. So what should you do? So let's have a few points. Number one is, you have to keep things in perspective. Meaning to say, so many times when people suffer, when people worry about things, they never ever sit down and think from 1 to 10. How bad is the problem? I understand you have a worry, but how bad is the problem? Number one, so many times it's not life-threatening. People get upset. People, get anxious about things that are minor. So many times, I could say most of the problems that people have, it's not that the worry, the scale of worry doesn't really equal. Yeah, it's worse, and the worry itself is a worse problem than the problem itself. People get upset. So many times, after you were upset, you were angry, you screamed to someone or whatever it was. There too, you start thinking, what exactly was nothing? Why was there so much worrying about it? What happened if it would have happened? What exactly? Number two is, so many things that you are stuck. You don't know what you're going to do. You really don't know. At the end, it settles. How? It will settle. Yeah, you don't know how. Yes, you don't know how. But it will settle. Just try to remind yourself, in the past, how many times were you at the point where you felt like, it's the end of the world, I don't know what I'm going to do. And you passed those stages already, and you're still existing, everything is here still.
And it's happened to every person.
Every person's happened, right. And I'll tell a personal story where I was involved with some kind of askonis with the bocher in Eretz Yisrael, and we had a question. Whichever direction I would take it was a catch-22. Whichever direction I took was bad. So I didn't know. I was lost. I didn't know what to do exactly, and I had to make a decision.
For you or for somebody else? For
someone else. So I called up a good friend of mine. Asking of in Eretz Yisrael, and we discussed the whole issue. And then he told me, Yisroel Meir, ich was zu sagen. Yisroel Meir, I don't have what to tell you. I hear the dilemma. I can't give you any advice. I'll relate to you a story. Maybe the story will help you. So he said a story from Chibina Rav Zechron Levracha. I don't take responsibility on the story, but that's the way he said it. He's a Talmud from Chibin. So he said that it was once someone came to Chibina Rav Zechron with a dilemma, whichever with the same kind of problem, that whichever had no direction, whichever direction they took wasn't helpful. So he didn't know what to do.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yes, right.
That's the expression.
That's the expression. Damn as you do, damn if you don't do. So
damned, no matter what you do.
So the Chibina Rav told him, "Listen, I don't know what to tell you, but I could tell you a story." Again, a story. So there was once a mother in Yerushalayim sent out on Purim her son with two mishloach manos. On one hand, there was a crystal beautiful setup, crystal Mishlech Manas. At the other hand, it was wine filled up cup and whatever. So he was walking with the two Mishlech Manas, and he started passing the street, the road, and all of a sudden he felt like his pants is falling off. And in the middle of the street, he didn't know what to do. And Shibirov concluded, what he did, I don't know. But I know that by now he doesn't have any problem anymore.
What did he do?
We don't know. But at this point, now the problem, I don't know, somehow it's settled.
His decision was which Shtalmanis to put down on the floor?
But he couldn't put out anything, he's on the road.
Both of them on the road is to pick up his pants.
And so I took his advice, and I can tell you it settled. From a different direction that I didn't even think of. Hashem is helping always, from a different direction. And now I want to come to a different point, which is something that you have to take really in consideration. It's a deep point. I'll try to explain it. The time. The watch. Okay.
Yeah, leave it there.
Yes. So there's a doctor in Shalim, Baruch Shalom. He's a frum doctor. So he has a book, Jerusalem Formula, and he writes a formula, a religious perspective, and he writes a very beautiful point. The point that he brings out is that whenever a person encounters in a problem, what he does is he's concentrating. What is he doing? Every person has a history, a life history, and he has a future, and he has the past. And it's so rich. When a person is trapped in a problem, and he's depressed, or whatever he is, he all of a sudden forgets about everything that's existing. He forgets about whatever was. He's so upset, and so angry. If he would have take in consideration his rich history that he had, and add this problem to the rich history, it's a minor thing. A bottle b'shishim, a bottle betatkas even.
What does that mean?
Tatkas is a terminology in halacha. What it's. And then when you look at the future life, so many times, it's a future problem that you have, but when it will pass, there's a future life. You have grandchildren and whatever you have still in your life add. And even in the present life, there's so many things going on. That's not the only thing in your life that's on the agenda. There's so many other things that's going on in your life. Whatever there is, life, family, simchas, whatever, there's so many things. But you are trapped and you're concentrating only on one thing. You take everything, you narrow it down to one thing. There's only one thing existing now, the problem. Everything else, the history, the ovar, the osid, and even the hoive, even the present, doesn't exist. So he said,
It depends how serious the problem.
it doesn't matter how serious the problem is.
Life and death
So it could even be a life and death situation. Okay. So if it is by the person itself, right? If it's the person itself, then you have to use different things. B'tochen and amunah, right? But if it's about someone else, it's also something. It's only part of your life. It's not your full life.
Not the whole life.
You're right.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, the word that he says, I found it in the Beferish Gemara. The Gemara in Sanhedrin, in Daf Kuf, Toiv Life Mishte Tomit. Toiv Life, anyway, before, we know that Chassidim, we always know this Gemara. Toiv Life Mishte Tomit, that's our best favorite Gemara. We always say L'chaim.
For bringing.
Yeah, for bringing is always lovable for us. I remember, I had an uncle of mine once said, in a big Mokum Torah, was Tisha B'Av in the afternoon, and there was two bochum over there learning the halachas of Tisha B'Av. So there's a halacha when you prepare the table, you have to leave one place empty because you dress jewelry, leave. There's many halachas, and at every halacha they learned, they got like so fired up. Wow, it's a new thing they learned. It's a beferish Shulchan Aruch. And they keep on learning one more beferish Shulchan Aruch, and he starts getting annoyed. Beferish Shulchan Aruch, one halacha after the other. All of a sudden he stands up, he walks over to this bochum, and he asks them, do you know what's the last halacha in Orechaim? In Shulchan Aruch Orechaim? So the Ramah finishes, V'toiv an Purim cotton, V'toiv life mishte tomit. That's a beferish Shulchan Aruch. They say, the Chassidim always find these kind of Shulchan Aruchs. So
Eat and drink and be merry.
So the Gemara says, "V'toiv life mishte tomit." which is a Mishli, Reb Sheba Levi says, "V'toiv leiv mishtetamid zu ze shedatoi rechava."
Achava said das.
Now, and then the pasuk continues. So Rashi over there says like this. He explains like this. Datek Itzara is someone. Datek Itzara is someone who narrow is that. Now Rashi says like this. Meisim leliboy kol dagas chavayrei. Someone who puts to his heart all the worries of his friends, the doyeg, and he worries, and everything is going to happen and come on, and might come on him. Rechava Rashi says that someone who doesn't put to his heart the dage. So you look at it, you see the terminologies of the pasuk. Rechava and ketzara. Ketzara is someone who's short-minded, so he's narrowing his mind. He's only thinking about worries. Rechava is someone doesn't take it so much to the heart, not because he's ignorant. There's so many more things in your life. Don't just ruminate on one problem.
Don't concentrate.
Don't concentrate just on one thing. So Reb Sheba Levi says it. I missed one part of the pasuk. So Toiv Levi, the Kol Yemei Oni, Reb Sheba Levi says like this: Kol Yemei Oni Roim Zi Shedate Kitzora. That's what Reb Sheba Levi says. The days of Oni is Roim. That's Date Kitzora, Zok Rashi. Someone who is worrying constantly. So it's a very fascinating, and if you follow this advice and you try to look at everything in the right perspective and opening up everything, not concentrating just on the problem, you'll automatically be happy. Now, there's something else which the Gemara says. Shlomo Melech says, "Mishli Lamed Aleph v'yayin lamore nefesh." Wine is for more nefesh. The Gemara in Eruvin says, "Lenivre yayin bo ilam hazeh elo lenachem avelim." The reason why wine was created in this world was for the bimenachem avelim schat tov l'rishonim. The Ralbak Al Mishli says that the point of the wine is sheyishkach hamar nefesh mererisoi. If you are bitter, you should forget about your problems.
So what about the pasuk Yain Samach Levaveno?
Yain Samach Levaveno is also right.
But if your problems, you become happy.
Right. But the problem is you have wine. We might call it in our times addiction. What's the benefit of drinking wine? Cope with the pain. You need some coping mechanism. Learn how to cope with the pain. What's the point of drinking the wine? So the number one answer would be self-understood. When the pain is at the peak, take some medicine sometimes. Take some, if it's really, if you are controlled, you don't overdo it. You stabilize it. But what I understand is there's a lesson that wine teaches us. And the same thing is with the vacation. Some people, they have problems, they're on to vacation. And some say that the problem is if you could have leave yourself behind and go to vacation would be good. Problem when you go to vacation, the problem comes with you. You yourself are coming with a problem. And the second problem is also, let's say even if you succeed, Baruch Hashem, at the vacation to concentrate on something else, but you're going soon to return. And what happens then? But the problem is still there. The teretz is you have to learn a lesson. There's a lesson that vacation and wine teaches you. Because really what's happening when you drink the wine? It wanders your attention away. It stops you from concentrating on the problem.
It's a diversion so that you can think more clearly.
Oh, so sometimes it just gives you the opportunity of thinking clearly, taking things in perspective. And sometimes now there's even something deeper. Something deeper is a very interesting point. I'll try to explain it. It's a very deep point, and I won't do justice for it just to give it in a 5 minute. But it's still something, you listen to it and go over and over. There's sometimes we create our own problems. What does it mean? What it means is like this, as follows. If you concentrate on a problem, the problem exists. When you don't concentrate on the problem, what happened with the problem?
Disappear.
It disappears. Why? Not because the problem disappeared. But you don't have to, it's there, but you don't have to live with the problem the whole time. You don't have to live with 24/7 with your problem. So basically concentrating on the problem that's the problem. The problem is that you keep on concentrating. You're basically creating the problem by yourself. Let's try to give a little metaphor for that. Let's say a person enters a big shul. He walks on the beam of the shul. And some upset person stands over there, gets annoyed. All of a sudden, he slams his face in front of everyone. Could you imagine the shame? Well, what happened if something catastrophic happens at that point? Everyone runs out from the shul at that point. What happened with this shame? Does it exist or it doesn't exist? Doesn't exist. Why? You stopped concentrating on it. But you still you were still slammed, you're slapped, doesn't matter. If you concentrate on it, then the problem exists. But if you stop concentrating on it, divert yourself, don't think from it. Who told you that you have to think on this the whole time? Stop creating your own problem. So, I'll try to give a little metaphor, one more metaphor for that. There was a story. There's a metaphor that I heard. It's not whatever I heard from someone. Someone repeated to me from some doctor that there was a dog once went to the water to drink, and as the dog bends down his head, he all of a sudden sees something between his two back legs. There's something hanging over there. We know that's a tail, but he didn't know the first time he sees something over there. So he tried all of a sudden to catch it. He started making all kind of moves, but wherever he was moving, the tail was running the other side. So he was jumping up and down for an hour, and he's all exhausted from jumping and doing all kind of moves. And all of a sudden, the boss arrives, and the dog turns to the boss and says, "Boss, could you help me, please? There's something over there. Someone is bothering behind my two legs. I'm trying for an hour to catch him, and I can't catch him. What should I do?" So the boss tells him, So what do you want? I want one of the three things. Either you give me better food, I should have more koyach, maybe when I'll jump more, I'll be able to do it. Or teach me some tricks where I can oversmart, that thing that runs away from me, and I could be able to catch it. Or give me, some exercise methods that I should be able to do it longer. Teach me something. So the boss turns to the dog and says, "It's your tail." So the dog has now two options to do. One thing is, "Oh, it's my tail," and walks away. What happens if the dog it turns around to the boss? "So maybe could you give me some advice how I should stop running after my tail?"
Cut it off.
So he didn't get it. If he asked this question and didn't get it. You have to understand that we create sometimes our own problems. Stop concentrating. Yasechena midatoi. Take wander off. So exactly, what do you do? So what do you do? That's the question. So there's so I'll try, interesting. Let's take the Tanya for a minute. Tanya Peik of Ches. So he talks about someone who suffers from machshava zaris, in the middle of davening. There's machshava zaris. There's thoughts that he doesn't want to think about, and it bothers him. And he says, don't try even to be mala the machshavas because it's yours. It's something coming from Yura. But even then, he says, and he's mechazik the person. Don't worry about it. That's part of the battle. Whenever you start a battle, always the second side starts the battle again. So don't get afraid. And then he says, and then he continues towards the end. You should know one thing. It's a metaphor. It brings a metaphor of a person that davens bekavane, and he stands bo'imit lenegdoi. Oral goy stands over there and he talks and he tries to disturb you. So you should don't answer him anything. Make yourself like someone who doesn't hear, Be mekayim, the pasuk says, Altan kesil kevaltoi. Don't answer to a stupid person about his stupidities, because you'll because you'll be similar to him. And he explains that if you try to argue with your thoughts, then kamis abik im nivel misnavel. Someone who's, you fight with someone who's dirty, then you yourself become dirty from him. So what should you do? Make yourself like you don't know, you don't hear all the thoughts. And veyasira medate, take it off your mind. And be moisif koyach bekavanosoi, meaning to say concentrate on something else. So what he gives us, he gives many words. If you look in the wording, you see the reason why he keeps on explaining it for a very simple reason. I'll ask you a question. Let's do an exercise for a minute, if you don't mind. Did any one of you ever in your life saw a red elephant? A color red elephant? No. So if you never saw it in your life, would you be able for the next minute not to concentrate on the red elephant, not to think about the red elephant? Would you be able? I want you to try. Let's give it a minute. Do you mind? Let's do an exercise for 1 minute.
Yeah, the elephant,
Don't think about it now. Just for the next minute, let's be quiet. Try to think about something else. And let's see if it works. Okay, let's stop. How was it?
It was red.
Was red. What happens is, if you don't want to think about something, although your whole life you never saw a red elephant, you think about the thing that you don't want to think about it. So that's why you have to concentrate on something else. So when a person, yasicha medato means think about something else. That's what he says. Don't listen, don't argue, don't try to explain anything, just turn your mind about something else. Whatever would happen, I don't know. Now let's concentrate on something else. I'm taking vacation now. I'll get back to you soon. But now I want to do something else. So that's the number one answer. What happens if it doesn't work? Now let's go back to the Peleioids, back to the Gemara. Yasachenu la'achayrim. So you need to talk to someone else. Who is the someone else? Now I want to say a very interesting thing over here. People turn a lot to help in these times, and I don't say anything against it, but you should know something. There's research that was made. What exactly helps in therapy? And the researcher came back that the difference between the models is only 15%, which is shocking. The difference between this model, that model, it's only 50%. What the main things help is the client factor, the relationship between let's call the therapist and the client, and the trust that the client has in the therapist that will help. So a person that if you believe and you trust someone else, it could be a good friend or anyone, you can help. Most of the times you can have the same outcome that you will get just from classical therapy. Now there's a point, like Shlomo Melech said, there's a time for everything. Certain problems needs professional help, but we're talking about, let's call them the walking wounded, those people who still walk around. They can find ease and they can find advice. They can find many ways out of the problem, but many other Torah. You can turn to Rav, to Chaver, and we'll talk about it right away. And I heard once it was a very interesting thing when I started off. So we had there was a group of mechanchim, and we had some Dr. David Schwartz from Crown Heights. He moved then to Crown Heights, and he gave us a lecture. So he spoke about the importance, how much effect we can have in helping people with problems. So he said like this. He says the follows. A very interesting point. He said that he was running a government-funded facility for people suffering from schizophrenia. So he once called, and that one of the Midwest states, and he called down the biggest doctor in the tri-state area, so-called, Dr. Willie. So he came to speak for all the professionals. So he said that in my lifetime, I met 2 times a doctor that was once a patient of mine, a client of mine. So he said, I once walked into the hospital, in a mental hospital, and the doctor over there, a woman, turns to him, Dr. Willie, you remember me? Who are you? Yeah, I used to be your client. Oh, you used to be, and you're now a doctor. Wow, so impressive. So what exactly helped you? He said, I'll tell you the truth, you didn't help me anything. When I was sitting in your waiting room, there was an African-American janitor over there, and he used to sit down and always talk to me, and he helped me. So it turns around to all the professionals. You should know sometimes you are the person to bring just the janitor to help the people. Why? Because that person was therapeutic. So a good friend can so many times be therapeutic. So that's what the Peleioid says. Talk to people like the Mishnah says, and the the importance of having someone, a Rav and a Chaver, someone that you trust, someone who's out of your problem. He can teach you the real perspective, and he will teach you the real. And he elaborates here. I think everyone should read it by himself on Dage. It's whatever. And he elaborates all the points of emunah and betochen that a person needs. A person needs to believe that it's a toive for him, it's for his toive, and betochen, and believe that things will turn out good and will be good. And when a person, and you should know one thing, the power, when a person has emunah and betochen, the power of it, as we learned in Agersa Kodesh Yud Aleph and Tanya, that everything, emunah itself, betochen itself, has the koyach of turning everything over, should be for the good. So that's very, very powerful. But some of the times, a person is in a matzav, we call it in the Sforim katnes hamoichen. He's in a matzav that doesn't talk to him, unfortunately. He's so in his problems, so engrossed, so he ruminates with the problem the whole time. And then sometimes you need medicine, sometimes you need a professional help, but sometimes could be a real help if you get someone who experienced it himself, and he passed it. Because by him, you trust him. Even betochen, even emunah, go to someone someone you really look up, a mashpia, a rav, someone you look up, you'll accept his words. And this has the koyach of breaking the barrier, the closeness, you're close, you're so engrossed, it schlep you out of it. Now, since it's turning late, we'll have to cut off part of the shir. But so now we spoke about simara, but you also have to know there's a seitoif. If a person wants, as we started off, if a person wants to be happy, he has to do a seitoif. He has to do goods. So number 1 is chesed. Chesed is from the kava yemin. It's from the right. Chesed, ahava, simcha is from one. They call it in the kava yemin. When a person does chesed, he's a dam alien, it brings him simcha. So a person has to do, there's so many people who need a smile, so many people need help, there's older people, you can go over, call them up, cheer them up, you can do so many things, and this has the effect to every person. If you feel like down, do something chesed and will enlighten you. That's number 1.
Olam chesed yibaneh.
Right. And number 2, we said what Rashi says, Sameach bechelkoi. Shlomo Melech says, Sameach bechelkoi. A person needs to be Sameach bechelkoi. Because if a person is not Sameach bechelkoi, it won't work. You always feel you're losing something. You need more, you're missing something. Be Sameach bechelkoi. That's what he asked, Shlomo Melech. Yeah, you have to be Sameach bechelkoi. It's part of it. And then also you have to find meaning in life. That's something you should know one thing. A person needs to know why he does things. And he needs to learn things about it. Last week, someone walks into me, he's a malamed, he's a rabbi in a cheder. Asked him, so what's the issue? So he said that Friday and Shabbos he's very depressed. He's very depressed Friday and Shabbos. He loves his job. So I started, first, number 1, how's his job? I love it, I'm successful. The kids, I think they love me. Everyone is happy. I asked him, the manal is happy? Yes, the principal is happy. Everyone is happy with your job. Beautiful. And he likes, he told me, I'm not like everyone that liked, they liked the vacation. I love to do. So a whole week I do. It comes Friday, it's only a half day, and then I'm depressed. I'm depressed Friday and Shabbos. So I started, let's look for the obvious reasons. So I asked him, number one, how's it at home? Shalom Bayis, okay, yeah, beautiful. You love your kids, yes. So, and I tried even checking, how was the past? Going back to at your parents' house. How was Shabbos over there? Was it a pressuring Shabbos? No, it was nice. We had a good time, a great time. So what? So I asked him, you know what? I don't know what's going on. Me, Shabbos is a bliss. The phones is away, nothing, no phone calls, no nothing. You can sit, spend time with the family, learn. So I asked him, what's Shabbos? Can you explain me what Shabbos? Shabbos is Shabbos. You don't do malachas. What is Shabbos? So I told him, listen, you're lacking meaning of life. You don't know what Shabbos is all about. You have to start learning about Shabbos, and don't learn Shabbos. Learn the whole week. Prepare yourself for Shabbos. When it comes to Yom Tov, comes to Purim, comes to Pesach, whatever. If you don't learn about the Yom Tov, it's just a boring Yom Tov. It's just Purim is about drinking. Okay, you drink, you disappear, and you're happy, or you don't know what the insights of Purim is all about. The insights of Pesach, the insights of Shabbos. Everything is so amazing. There's so much literature available now, and Chassidus and everything that gives you the point of it. Start learning about it. And then we also spoke that the void that he feels is actually helping him, to refresh himself, to be a better Rebbe. Otherwise, would be like, we won't concentrate on the kids really. But anyway, so that's number two. You have to find meaning in life. Rabbi Aaron Kalin used to say that a person has to know, a person has to be able to jump just because that he's a Yid, that he's a Jew. Yes? Think about it. Say it to yourself 300 times. We constantly, when a person is not happy, there's a message that he says to himself. He doesn't, sometimes it's in subconscious. Say to yourself, Baruch Hashem, I'm a Jew. There's a famous Vina Hashem Nitzav from the Rebbe says, Vina Hashem Nitzav that a person has to, he told it for the children, look how important you are for Hashem. That Hashem, the Melech al Haaretz Kavoidoi, leaves everything behind it, and you are important for him. He looks and he concentrates, he wants to see what you'll do for him. You are giving him a nachas riach. But so you have to tell it to yourself the whole time. You are the chosen people. Tell it to yourself the whole time. The son of the president, whatever, the stepdaughter, whoever is now, they walk around happy and proud. Tell it to yourself. Hashem actually wants my avodah. When I say a bracha, he's happy. When I do a mitzvah, he's happy. All what you learn in Chassidus, when you learn those, you all of a sudden, you get insights, you get inspired, and it makes you happy. So you connect to yourself. And that's part that's called simcha shel mitzvah. That's what the Kedushas Levi says. That you need simcha shel mitzvah. That's what the B'Mam Chaim, Reb Chaim B'Shanovitz says. That you have to do, you need simcha shel mitzvah. So let's just, because it's late now, we'll just cut. So let's just repeat. So we basically, let's wrap it up. So we went over, number one is like this. Point number one is you have to put things in perspective. You have to know there's a history. You have a history in your life, and there's more to come. Put things, that's the point one. Point two is we spoke about two methods how to stop ruminating on the problem. Don't create your problem, don't ruminate on the problem. Concentrate on something else. Number three is emunah, something that we have to learn on, and you have to learn on emunah. 4 is about bitochen. 5 is you have to do chesed. Number 6 is you need to learn Torah. That's what Rashi says in Mishli, that of the Torah, as yes, we repeated what Rashi said. Rashi said that someone who sits and learns, it takes away all the dagas, and also and you need Torah, you need. And number 7 is you need Pnimis HaTorah. You need to find meaning. You need to learn Pnimis HaTorah. When you learn Pnimis HaTorah, and it gives you meaning to your life, your whole life looks differently. And I want to conclude with a story that many of you sitting here are part of the story. Maybe I said it once, but this basically brings out the whole point that we spoke about. It's a fascinating story that happened with the Shir of Tani over here. Once I received a phone call from Rabbi Silverberg. He calls me up, Rabbi Tauber, I have to tell you something. I'm so emotional about what I heard. What happened? He was still, in middle, about to conclude the first part of Tanya, and he receives a phone call. A woman calls him. Now, this woman was involved in outreach already, and she calls him up. She asks him, when are you starting to the second, when are you starting? Are you planning of starting it? And then all of a sudden she told him, Rabbi Silverberg, I'm looking for your number for a while. I owe you a phone call because you saved my life. He said, what happened? She said, although I was involved in outreach and everything, I felt depressed. I was so depressed. I was going to therapy for years and nothing helped. And I was about to commit suicide. And I actually had a plan, at the next stage. I had a plan how, and I was about to commit it. My father, which is related to Chabad, asked me, maybe try to learn Tanya still. Try to learn, we're talking to her father, try to learn Tanya. So I started listening to your shir. My whole life changed around. And since I started listening to your shir, I became happy. I became so happy I got out of the suicidal stage. My therapist, which is an Orthodox lady, asked me, what happened with you? What is the sefer to learn that was able to schlep you out from suicide? So she shared with her, Tanya. She also started listening to the shir. And now we teach it to other people. So because of you, my life was saved. And now I inspire many others. I put down the phone and I called up, the sponsor, Yossi, and I told him, you don't know, you think you sponsor a shir, Tanya, you literally save a person far away. A shir over here saves, and all of you attending such a shir and helping it create it are part of this shir.